Here today with Alanna Keating of the BoatUS Foundation. Alanna, great to have you with us today.
Thanks, John. I appreciate you having me today.
So first, tell me what your title is and what you do for the BoatUS Foundation.
Sure. I'm the Director of Outreach here at BoatUS Foundation, and I work on a lot of our partnership programs and our environmental work. And I'm lucky enough to be heading up our abandoned and derelict vessel program.
So let's talk about the BoatUS Foundation for Boating Safety and Clean Water. Some exciting things going on, great things going on, right?
Absolutely. So the BoatUS Foundation has been around for over 35 years promoting safe and clean boating. Our mission is to change behaviors in the boating community to make it safer and more sustainable and just make boating better. We do that through a variety of programs that reach over 2 million boaters each year, whether it's our free online boating safety course or work like our abandoned and derelict vessel program, our nationwide life jacket loaner program, a lot of different opportunities to work within the boating community and to bring together partners of different industry and different states and federal agencies to really make a difference and move the needle on keeping boating safe and sustainable.
So we've heard a lot about the boating waste stream. What does that mean? What's that about?
Yeah, we've been doing exciting work talking about sustainable solutions to waste in the boating industry. So we all know about recycling of plastics and even marine debris, but some of the things that we don't talk about on a large scale on a national level is some of the waste streams in the boating industry that don't have easy sustainable solutions to prevent them from going to the landfill or even easy disposal options for the boaters, whether it's fiberglass from abandoned and derelict boats or even boats at end of life, or it's the shrink wrap from wrapping your boats in the colder areas for winterizing, or flares that you are required to replace every 3 years but don't have easy disposal options. So we've been working with different partners including NOAA and different state partners and nonprofits to be able to look at what solutions there are out there that are working and how we can bring coalitions together to move those solutions forward or come up with new and innovative ideas to address those topics.
So we're talking about those boats that might be sitting on the trailer, or maybe that smaller boat that became the planter in the front yard, and you want to get rid of that boat. You know, we often see those ads, right? The ads that say, free boat, trailer stays, boat only. Right? Folks need to get rid of those old and abandoned boats. What would the process be for somebody looking to move that kind of a boat, to get rid of that kind of a boat in a safe and
Yeah,
environmentally friendly way?
yeah, absolutely. So it's not just that boat that's on a trailer, but also that boat that was abandoned or picked up by a storm and landed on marshlands or has been sitting there for 10 years. One of the leading causes of abandoned and derelict vessels is that disposal option. The best analogy I can give is when a car is at the end of life, when you're done with your car, somebody's always going to take that car. It always has
Sure.
value to somebody. And not just for $1 on Craigslist where somebody takes it away from you, but you are able to donate it to somebody, you're able to sell it to somebody, and it goes. That's not the case when it comes to boats. And as boaters, we don't want to think about our precious boat not having value at the end of life. But the truth is, it doesn't. Fiberglass is not something that, like a car with metal, that you can recycle, that you can reuse, that can go back into that uh, the circular economy of opportunity. And so we're really looking to see what can be done to do that. Sometimes boat disposal can cost more than what a boat is worth or what the last owner paid for it. So we want to see the intentional abandonment of vessels not happen, but also the ability for boaters to dispose of a boat before it gets to an abandonment situation or before a storm comes and picks it up and takes it away and moves it somewhere that is harder to remove. When you're looking at disposal or prevention, that some of the key factors are just what happens next. And that's what we've been working to tackle on a national level and on an individual level with a couple different aspects of our abandoned and derelict vessel program.
So what does happen next? What do I do with that boat that's been on the trailer? My mechanic says it's done. Get rid of it. It's not worth putting the money into it. What do we do with it?
We don't have the answers to that yet, but we're working towards it. So earlier this year in February, we hosted the first Turning the Tide virtual summit. And there we brought together over 30 presenters to talk about this marine boating related waste stream and disposal challenges. We talked on fiberglass, we talked on flares, shrink wrap, we talked about what's working in communities, what programs are out there and already seeing successes, and then how other groups can take those successes and move them forward, how we can make connections between groups like Rhode Island Marine Trade Association, who started fiberglass recycling in Rhode Island as a pilot, and then use the information that they gained, and then Washington State used that to develop their program, and now they're seeing these incredible successes in both prevention and mitigation of abandoned derelict vessels. And how can other groups build on those successes? How can other states build on that? Or how can we put together Blue Parameter in the UK that's looking at other different sustainable disposal options than what Rhode Island Marine Trade was, and connect them with organizations here in the US like Emerge Marine or Carbon Rivers that are addressing these in specific areas as well. And we really want to bring all of the partners, all of the players together, and not just the ones that are taking the boats and doing that engineering, that disposal of it, but the groups that are identifying ADVs or doing the removals, like the fleet of salvage companies that do ADV removal across the country, how we can all pull it all together and keep
Right.
moving towards those solutions. So we're so excited about the conference we hosted in February. We're continuing to make the content available on our website for a minimal registration fee. And then we're planning our 2026 conference in December of 2026 to bring those partners back together to talk about what's happened in the year since they were originally put together, and talking about solutions and what other solutions have come forward in that time frame, and really continue to build that networking, that collaboration, that community around tackling these issues.
Absolutely. I've heard a lot of great things about the Rhode Island Marine Trades Association and the company that's recycling the fiberglass. So, do they just break it down like any recyclable and use it again? How does that work? Do you have any idea?
Oh, I wish it was that easy. And not that recycling is easy, but
Mm.
there's so much that goes into it. And every group that's doing these kinds of efforts across the country does it differently and has different solutions in place. But there is a lot that comes from it, of having to strip the boats and having to figure out what the different materials are that are in the process and what to do with each of those materials. So Rhode Island's example was using it in cement manufacturing as a fuel source and
Mm.
continuing to use the ash. And Washington has built on that model, but other solutions are out there using it for different, processing it in different ways. So it's really exciting to see how we can come at this solution, these problems from multiple fronts, and not just the ADV issue, but also those other solutions that we're looking at with the shrink wrap, and bringing that back into things like wood decking or composite decking like Trex. But is there other solutions that are out there that can use shrink wrap and maybe bring it back into, dock decking or fishing tackle or any of those things that puts it back into our industry and shows how we're going to continue to move through that circular economy.
Right. We don't think about shrink wrap, right? This is, a beautiful way to cover the boat, keep the boat safe and dry during the winter, but then that plastic is going to go somewhere, right?
Yeah, we did a survey several years ago about shrink wrap, and we asked if people considered shrink wrap a single use plastic. And many people did not, because you're thinking of it as it's lasting for the entire winter,
Yeah.
which is so vital in areas like New England and the mid Atlantic to keep that boat protected when you're moving boats. But is there other options available? One of our presenters talked about their Think Before You Shrink campaign, And we worked with them to evaluate the different options in winterizing your boat and what covers work, from semi-custom covers to custom covers to the shrink wrap, and
Well,
what's the best option for you.
I'm a frugal New England boater, I like to say. And I think there was one time I got 3 years out of my shrink wrap, but don't tell anybody. You just kind of fold it up, put it back on again, and make it work, right? You can get sometimes more than one
Exactly.
year
We've
if you
definitely heard
take
from
care
the
of it
New
well.
England crowd that reusing the shrink wrap comes into play. And that's great, because then we're cutting down on the use of it. But is there other solutions? Is there other opportunities out there for that disposal, or to find other solutions in what we're using to meet that need?
So when we hear ADV, abandoned and derelict boats, let's talk about the derelict boat side. That's that boat that might be up on shore, right? Up on a marsh, has been sitting there for a way. It hampers the waterways oftentimes. How do we address that?
Yeah, so derelict is an interesting word, and every
Hmm.
state has a different meaning of what an abandoned and derelict boat is. So it could be that up on the marsh. It could also be the boat on a mooring. It could be the boat that was pushed out by storm. There's really a lot of options of what people consider an abandoned and derelict boat. But at the end of the day, it's an eyesore. It's an impact on our environment. It could be, like you said, it could prevent navigation,
Sure.
and it risks continued impact for years to come. So, BoatUS Foundation was lucky to receive a grant from NOAA Marine Debris Program
Yeah,
to do
considerable
a
grant, right?
nationwide. I'm sorry.
$7.5 million is a great grant. That'll go a long way, won't it?
10 million dollars for the
Oh,
whole
10 million.
program.
I stand corrected.
10
We'll
million for the
take it.
whole program, and that includes
Perfect.
this conference on our sustainable disposal solutions. It also includes a nationwide subaward competition on ADV removal. We have done removal in partnership with salvage companies in the past over the last 10 plus years with NOAA. But when this funding became available, we wanted to use this to bring together the partners that we have, the reach that we have of getting collaboration, and address these removal efforts that need to happen across the country. There are hundreds of ADVs around the country that are impacting communities. And we wanted to make sure federal funding is hard to get. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of effort. And we wanted to help bring communities that don't normally have the resources to be able to provide to apply for that funding, the opportunity to apply with an easy to use application, and support that they needed to put these project ideas. So we're really putting money where it's needed in the community. So we are excited. We've gone through our competition cycle. We've selected our grantees. We'll be announcing them in the next few weeks, as we work through contracting. But we're very excited to put out close to $7.5 million in removal efforts in all regions of the country, to address a large amount of ADVs that are around, some that have been here for decades, and to make sure that we are cleaning up these waters and also working towards that education and that outreach and that disposal solutions. And we're preventing new ADVs from happening by addressing the causes of ADVs, whether it's a lack of disposal option, whether it's a knowledge issue within the boating community about how to dispose of it, or even some of the challenges just around historical disposal that happened in areas. So we're very excited to see what's going to happen in the next year and a half as we start doing removals around the country.
Give me an example of what some of those removals will look like, the kinds of companies involved, some of the grantees. Like, do they actually claim the boat? Do they go out on that marsh or in the highlands and grab the boat? Is there monies included for that? Or is it just disposal of it once they get it? And how does BoatUS, do the Towboat US people get involved in that? Is it a salvage operation? How does that work?
Yeah, so it is a salvage operation, and it really depends on where it is. I hate saying it, but it's always depends on the state and the location and the locality, what the laws are, what goes around with that. But we are working with a variety of organizations from states to nonprofits to tribal nations on addressing these issues in their community. And we, when looking, asking people to apply, and as we work with our grantees, are looking for those coalitions. It is not one person, one organization can tackle this issue, even in a single community. It takes a village to address these issues. And that's one of the things that we've always been excited about these projects, whether it was net removal in Ocean City, Maryland, on um, coral reefs, or if it was a boat removal in Sandusky, Ohio. It was the state, it was the local salvage company, it was community organizations, it was the town, all coming together to address these. And that's what we're going to see with our grantees is everybody's bringing it together to do these efforts, and we're here to help. We have the network of salvage companies that we work with through Towboat US. We have the network of states that we work with through a variety of our programs. We are a nonprofit. We can do that education and outreach, and we will be documenting these removals, these efforts to talk about what's working in different areas, what could work in other areas, and what the
Sure.
problem is. We all know when you go out on the water and you see an abandoned boat somewhere, on that marshland, on that sandbar, or at anchor. But how widespread the issue is, what it takes to address it, and what we can do to not have to address it again is really something we're looking to make sure that the broader boating community, the boating industry, and general water enthusiast communities are aware of, so we can really prevent this from happening again.
So if I have that boat that's abandoned, or I know of a derelict boat, what is a step for me as a boater, for the average boater who sees that? Is there a system in play? Will there be a system in play to report and dispose?
There will be a system in play, and we're so excited to have that. When people talk about ADVs, when we talk to the different states of the communities, when we talk to Congress, they say, "What's the issue? What's the scope of the problem?" And nobody knows. Nobody knows. There's pockets of things. There's some states that collect information, but abandoned boats is a revolving issue. You remove some boats and new one shows up. The storm comes and you create more. It's a constant change of inventory of what's out there. And we really want to quantify how big the problem is. Um, we've been lucky that NOAA has had funding for several years through the Marine Debris Program to address ADVs in coastal areas and the Great Lakes, but there has never been funding to address ADVs in inland areas. So those lakes that have houseboats on them that might become abandoned or derelict, those rivers that have anything from cars to boats to
Yeah.
planes, there's never been the funding on a large scale to help address these issues. So we are working to pull together a database that will allow the public to help us quantify that issue. It allow us to share that information with individual states on how they would like to have that information, track the progress of removals, track prevention efforts and what that's doing to the recurrence of ADVs in an area, and be able to really have a bigger, better picture of ADVs as a whole across the country, so we can talk in numbers and facts and understand what it also means moving forward. There are so many boats that are coming to end of life, and now is such an important time for us to find the solutions to address them, because it's just going to get to be a bigger problem if we don't have solutions in place. And so we hope that the ADV database will give that the public, the on-water towing companies, the states that opportunity to have the information to address it, to prevent it, and to identify any issues that are emerging.
Yeah, you don't think about flares. You mentioned that, and I just thought about that. Everyone's got those flares put aside. They might be old and outdated, right? Sitting below.
Yeah.
How do you dispose of those? Please don't just throw them into the trash when you leave the marina with your, empty
Please
cans,
don't
right?
throw them into the trash. Nobody wants that at
Sure.
all. Again, it all depends on where you live, which is so hard for us as a national organization to not be able to tell boaters what exactly to do. It really depends. Sometimes a fire department will take them and they'll use them for demonstrations. Sometimes your home hazardous waste will take them at drop off days. But again, there's no nationwide solution for this. And flares are such a challenging issue
Sure.
because there's only so many places that can dispose of flares in the country. There's so many different laws and regulations that govern how you transport them. So this is another area where we really want to see innovation. We got to hear from a couple groups on how they're tackling it in our Turning the Tide Summit, but there's more work to be done. One of the roles that the foundation has played for decades is connecting the pieces, connecting the partners. We partner with over 1,000 organizations on so many different topics. And we've been lucky that our small but incredible staff have always been able to be part of different conversations, whether we're talking to the state boating law administrators about our online course or we're working with state clean marina managers. We've been able to make those connections with who we talk to. So we might know that Rhode Island is doing fiberglass recycling. And when South Carolina talks about wanting to implement a solution in their area, we can make those connections. So for decades, we've been making these one-on-one connections on different topics. This person's doing this person's doing this. You guys might want to talk. And this was our opportunity to have a 300-to-1 connection. We were able to get these people doing incredible work and really pushing the boundaries of what's currently out there and what could be out there and the innovation, and have the audience to be able to say, this is what you could be doing, or here's the successes we had, here's the challenges, here's what we learned. Because this is not going to, none of these issues are a state issue, a local issue, a regional issue. They're national issues. And while we may not be able to find a national solution all the time, we can build up from each other and move faster, innovate faster, iterate faster by learning the lessons of what those behind us have done. So the Turning the Tide Summit was that. It was networking across different partners. It was hearing about these incredible solutions and the challenges and the successes and that building that's happening, whether it's the UK, whether it was the Virgin Islands,
Hmm.
whether it was Washington State. It didn't matter where they were from. They were all coming together on this shared mission. We had an incredible keynote speaker, Sean Thompson, world wide surfer, environmentalist, author. He really inspired our attendees on their I will statements, what they're going to accomplish, their own personal motto, mantra of what they will move forward. And it was truly incredible and inspiring to see the work that so many people are doing to tackle these really complex issues. Um, and the willingness for collaboration and the need and desire for collaboration. So we're excited to continue that collaboration as we wait for our in person and we build to that, but also to see that collaboration continue after that, because that's how we're going to get to the solutions. There's no way one group, one organization, one state can find the solutions to these issues. It's all of us together moving it forward.
So, in addition to tackling issues like the ADV issue, which is a big one, tell me about some of the other things the BoatUS Foundation is doing. Some of the great things from PFDs for kids right on down the line. Brag a little bit. Tell me about your foundation.
Brag a little bit. I love to brag.
Sure, give it to
I
me.
have been I have been so lucky. I've been with BoatUS Foundation for coming up on 20 years. Uh, and I have had the opportunity to work on almost every single program that we've had in that time. And we do just such incredible work in such an awesome community. Like, who else gets to say, I work with boaters all day, I work in boating, and I get to make a difference. I get to save lives, I get to make our environment better. So the foundation does absolutely incredible work. We have the only free online boating safety course. It's approved for education requirements in 37 states. We have educated over 2 million people in the over 30 years we've been offering this course. I don't like to say that we've had an internet course for 30 years, but it's true. Um, and we're continuing to work with states as they bring on education requirements or they expand the opportunities of online courses. So,
Such as our home
we,
state, such as our home state, Massachusetts. So that's good to know.
yeah, we're
We've got boating
there's
safety in
definitely
place
some
now.
things afoot in
Sure.
Massachusetts on allowing more broader education, and we're there to help with that. We don't ever want education to be a barrier for people to engage in boating. I always say that boaters are uniquely positioned to be our best safety and environmental resources. They love the water, they love being on it, they have that connection. They can move the sustainability conversations forward and they can move the safety conversations forward. And so we are excited when Massachusetts will hopefully approve our course and we'll be able to meet the education requirements there. Um, and we've been continuing to iterate our course and make sure that even as a seasoned boater, there's still information for you to learn. And beyond that, we have a dozen advanced courses, a clean boating course, really just a lot of educational resources for boaters who are either already in it or getting into it to improve their skills. We have a on-water training locator, so organizations across the country that are doing hands-on training, which is one of the best ways to learn and build your confidence on the water. We have their courses listed with us so that boaters can easily find it. With the once they complete that free online course, they can move right on to hands-on training to become the safest boaters possible. We have our life jacket loaner program, which is near and dear to my heart. It's one of the programs that I've been working on almost my entire career. We're the first national life jacket loaner site. We have over 600 sites across the country. We still have sites with us today that were with us our first year almost 30 years ago, and we continue to innovate on that program and make life jackets available for kids who are going out for a day or weekend. They outgrew their life jacket, their unexpected guests, opportunities to keep kids safe on the water, because we all know that life jackets are such an important
So
piece of
very
equipment when
important.
you are boating.
Yeah,
And having
absolutely.
a properly fitted life jacket is the number one issue to address. Um, and then we do our partnerships. We have an incredible resource center for partner organizations, whether you're a marina, a marine trade, a state agency. We have videos, how to fit a life jacket, graphics, what it's like, things to think about when you're boating with an infant, rules of the road, the navigation, aids to navigation, all of this material that can be shared in your newsletters on your social sites. Just that really easy, digestible information for boaters to keep educating, to keep being reminded of the important topics that we're doing. And then, you never know what's coming next for us. So we're hoping to keep education, to keep innovating in how we reach boaters and really change those behaviors to keep them safe.
Well, you are excited about it, which is awesome because there's a whole
Always.
lot there to be excited about, that's for sure. And we're happy here at the Drift to be partnered with BoatUS and the BoatUS Foundation and Towboat US. It's what we like to say, it's great television. It really works for us, informative, impactful, and it's news you can use for folks, for boaters, right?
Absolutely. We want to make boating is such an incredible sport. It's such an incredible pastime. It's such a great opportunity to relax, connect, unwind, disconnect. And we want to make sure that we do it in the safest and most sustainable way possible.
So for boaters watching right now, and they're saying to themselves, okay, how can I help the ADV mission with BoatUS? What's the best way to handle my flares and my shrink wrap, and how do I report boats? That's all coming, or is there a place they can go right now to find that out?
There's some now. Our Turning the Tide, like I said, our Turning
Yep.
the Tide virtual summit is online. It's available. You register, it's $10. All the content's there. 3 days, over 15 hours of content. BoatUS.org/turning the tide will get you all of that you need, including some resources, magazine articles, other presentations. We really tried to include as much as we could to get people educated. Um, on our website, you'll be able to find all the new things that are happening to us as we start launching the other pieces of it, as we announce our sub awardees and start doing removal efforts, as we make the ADV database available, and then obviously our social sites, whether it's Facebook, whether it's X, whether it's LinkedIn. If you connect with us, we're constantly updating it with anything new and interesting that we're doing. And then those resources are there on the website as well as on our social sites that you can use to help educate boaters in your community.
Anna, thanks for all you do and all the BoatUS Foundation does to help keep boating better, right? To really support our environment and boating. You do wonderful things.
Thank you, John. Thanks for being such a great partner and having me here today to talk about all the exciting stuff that our team does.
Hey, keep us updated.
Absolutely.
Thanks a bunch.
The Drift Podcast can be found at driftsociably.com or where all fine podcasts are heard.